If I asked you what the Scottish Enlightenment, uh, a highly insecure 18th century lawyer, and a fictional audio drama about a crime-fighting red panda all have in common.
It sounds like a joke, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
You'd probably think it was the setup to a really bizarre, convoluted joke. But today, you have handed us the exact structural crossroads where all of these totally, completely disparate entities collide.
Right.
We are looking at a single Wikipedia disambiguation page for the exact phrase, Society of Gentlemen.
Which is just wild to think about. I mean, it functions as this sort of linguistic waiting room. You've got centuries of history just forced to sit right next to each other.
Yeah, side by side.
Exactly. On the surface, you're just looking at a brief list. It's what, 5 bullet points and some administrative metadata.
Right. It looks super boring at first glance.
It really
Uh,
does. But underneath that utilitarian formatting is this incredible masterclass in how language shifts over time and, how our digital infrastructure categorizes reality itself.
Okay, let's unpack this because our mission today for this deep dive is not just to, read a list back to you.
Nobody wants that.
Exactly. We are going to examine how a seemingly straightforward phrase fractures into 5 completely different historical, professional, and cultural directions.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at how a few words can evolve from a shield of anonymity to a beacon for localized learning, and then morph into a weapon for social gatekeeping.
And then finally settle into a pop culture trope.
Right. So the most globally impactful use of the phrase on your source list actually flips our modern understanding of what a society is, like entirely on its head.
It really does.
The very first bullet point redirects the searcher to a society of gentlemen in Scotland.
And the crucial detail here is that this was not a physical club.
Right.
Like, it wasn't a building you could walk into with a secret handshake or a membership fee. It was actually a pseudonym.
Wait, a pseudonym? Like a
Or-
pen name?
Exactly. It was the collective pen name used by the original authors and editors of the first edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica back in 1768.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they were using Society of Gentlemen not to claim a public identity, but to actively hide their individual identities.
What's fascinating here is the profound irony of that editorial choice. I mean, the Britannica was designed to be the ultimate authoritative claim on human knowledge, right?
Right, the definitive book of facts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yet the people compiling it intentionally chose a vague, faceless moniker.
It's so counterintuitive to how we do things today.
It really speaks volumes about the intellectual climate of the Scottish Enlightenment. Like, in that specific era, collective intellectual authority was highly valued over individual celebrity.
Yes, exactly.
By presenting this massive, ambitious work as the product of a society, they were implying a really rigorous consensus.
They were essentially telling the reader, this isn't just one eccentric guy's opinion on how chemistry or geography works.
Right? This is the vetted, agreed-upon knowledge of a whole community of educated minds.
It feels incredibly modern when you frame it that way. I mean, it's almost like they were the original anonymous internet creators.
Oh, that's a great point.
Like, when you look at modern open source communities today, or even anonymous wiki editors, there's this underlying culture of leaving your personal ego at the door to build an architecture larger than yourself.
Yeah. A Society of Gentlemen in Scotland was basically an anonymous wiki before wikis even existed.
It really was. And that anonymity provided the work with this invisible armor of consensus.
Oh, so?
Well, think about it. If one individual published an encyclopedia, critics could just attack that person's specific credentials or their personal biases.
Oh, sure, they just tear the author down.
Right. But a society suggests this impenetrable fortress of peer review. It was a highly effective rhetorical device to establish immediate trust with a pretty skeptical public.
That makes total sense. But, that rhetorical device lives solely on the printed page. And human nature dictates that abstract ideas eventually demand physical spaces. Like, the concept of an open exchange of ideas inevitably transitions into tangible gatherings.
Which brings us to the next thematic branch of our source material.
Exactly. The disambiguation page lists 2 physical manifestations. There's the Society of Gentlemen at Exeter and the Spalding Gentlemen's Society.
Right.
And the source notes in an astonishing detail about the Spalding Group. It is a learned society of the United Kingdom founded in the exact year 1710.
Over 3 centuries ago, in a market town in Lincolnshire.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sheer logistics required to formalize a learned society in a place like Spalding in 1710 are just mind-boggling.
Oh, absolutely.
You and I live in an era where if you want to find people interested in, I don't know, 18th century French poetry or amateur rocketry or deep dives into Wikipedia indexing,
You just go online.
right, you join a subreddit or a specialized Discord server.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1710, the friction of daily life was immense.
Yeah, just traveling a few miles could take hours of miserable riding through terrible weather.
Blood everywhere.
Exactly. So why go through the monumental trouble to formalize a society? Like, why not just chat informally at the local tavern when you happen to see someone?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer lies in the harsh economic realities of information gathering in the early 18th century.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Well, when you combine a specific physical location, like Spalding or Exeter, with the pursuit of being learned, you are looking at the necessity of resource pooling.
Ah, because books were prohibitively expensive.
Yes, books, scientific instruments like early microscopes or astronomical tools, they were incredibly rare and super fragile.
Right.
By creating a formalized society, members could pool their personal funds, build a shared library that no single individual could afford on their own, and purchase specialized equipment.
So it functioned as a primitive server farm for knowledge.
Exactly. A localized physical internet where you literally had to arrive on horseback to download the latest scientific papers.
That's such a great image. And, beyond just pooling physical resources, a formalized society gave them institutional weight.
Meaning what, exactly?
Well, a single person writing a letter to a famous scientist in London might just be ignored, right?
Sure, straight to the track.
Yeah, but the Spalding Gentlemen's Society could correspond directly with the Royal Society or other learned groups across Europe.
Oh, they had brand name.
Exactly. They could invite guest speakers and participate in a broader network of intellectual exchange. It was a way to overcome the geographic isolation of a rural market town.
It makes complete sense that these groups started as open, localized exchanges of ideas. But as soon as you establish a level of prestige and intellectual authority,
Someone's going to figure out how to monetize it.
right, human nature dictates that someone else will use it to build walls. And that perfectly explains the third major category on this list, the Society of Gentlemen Practicers in the Courts of Law and Equity.
Which is a dramatic shift, right?
Well,
We're moving from the pursuit of general knowledge to a highly specialized professional application.
I have to push back on the phrasing of this one, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Society of Gentlemen Practicers in the Courts of Law and Equity. Wait, if they were wealthy and high status enough to be titled gentlemen, why were they doing administrative legal labor in the courts at all?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Historically, weren't true gentlemen supposed to live entirely off the passive income of their country estates? Doing daily clerical work seems entirely contradictory to the very definition of the word.
And that contradiction is the entire point.
Really?
Yeah, that incredibly clunky title is actually a window into the intense class anxieties of the English legal system at the time.
Okay, I'm listening.
To understand the mechanism here, we have to unpack the immense linguistic weight of the word gentleman. Today, we use it casually to describe a polite man holding a door.
Right, he's a true gentleman.
Exactly. But in historical Britain, gentleman was a distinct, legally recognized social rank. As you pointed out, it meant you were of good birth, usually landed, and crucially, you were not supposed to perform manual or administrative labor for your survival.
So the title itself is a paradox. They are admitting they are practicers,
People doing the daily grind of the work.
but they are desperately clinging to the social rank of gentlemen.
Precisely. You are looking at an era where the legal system was becoming exponentially more complex. The source specifically mentions the courts of law and equity.
What's the difference there?
So these were two separate, often competing legal systems functioning simultaneously in England. The courts of law dealt with rigid, strict statutory rules and precedents,
Okay.
while the courts of equity dealt with fairness, conscience, and resolving disputes where strict law provided no just remedy.
Wow, so navigating the friction between those two systems required rigorous, trained, full-time professionals.
It's the definition of a high-stress day job. You cannot casually navigate two competing legal systems in your spare time between fox hunts,
No, definitely not.
which created a massive social problem for the people doing the work. They were performing difficult, daily administrative labor, and in the rigid hierarchy of British society, that type of work was dangerously close to being viewed as mere clerical trade.
Oh, I see. So they wanted to ensure their emerging profession was viewed with the highest possible social esteem.
Exactly. By combining the word gentleman with practicers, they were executing a deliberate linguistic power play.
They were attempting to merge a perceived inherited social class with a rigorous professional occupation.
It is an act of status laundering.
Status
I
laundering.
mean,
I love that.
they are forcing an oxymoron into existence to protect their social standing. We work in the courts, but we are still gentlemen, we promise.
It is fascinating how much deep-seated status anxiety is baked into a single line of a Wikipedia index.
Right.
They needed the social honor to make the modern legal profession respectable before the public would fully trust them with their estates and fortunes.
It is entirely about gatekeeping. The Spalding Society used the phrase to open up access to knowledge, while the practicers used the exact same phrase to close off their profession from the lower classes and elevate their own fees.
We have traced this phrase through some incredible historical realities so far.
We really have.
I mean, we've seen it used as a shield of anonymity by the greatest encyclopedists in Scotland. We have seen it used as a physical beacon for learned men riding through the mud in Lincolnshire to share expensive books.
Yeah.
And we have seen it wielded as a social weapon by insecure lawyers navigating the dual courts of England. But then we hit the see also section of your provided source material. And the narrative violently shifts from historical reality into something entirely different.
Oh, yeah. The entry for The Society of Gentlemen Adventurers, which the source explicitly notes is an episode of the modern fictional audio drama series Red Panda Adventures.
So what does this all mean? Honestly, this is the part of the deep dive that completely blows my mind about the source material you provided.
I know, it's quite a leap.
I am marveling at the digital flattening of information here. You have a scholarly term from the 1700s, representing the vanguard of the Scottish Enlightenment and the foundational roots of the modern legal system. And it shares the exact same digital space, the exact same search value, and the exact same bullet point formatting as an episode of a pulp fiction series about crime-fighting adventurers.
This raises an important question about the underlying architecture of the internet, though.
How so?
Well, it forces us to consider how digital knowledge is actually categorized today, and what that specific categorization does to our perception of reality and history.
Oh, that's interesting.
A disambiguation page is not a history book. It does not possess the capacity to judge the gravity, nuance, or historical weight of a topic. It is purely an algorithmic sorting mechanism built on basic string matching.
Right. Wikipedia's backend doesn't know what a 17th century society is, or why the Scottish Enlightenment matters at all.
No, it doesn't care.
It only knows that a user typed a specific sequence of characters into a search bar, and it has to serve up every possible database row that contains those exact characters.
And that algorithmic architecture treats the first edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica with the exact same ontological weight as a piece of contemporary pulp fiction.
That's kind of hilarious when you think about it.
It is. It's a legacy of early database design where semantic context, like actually understanding the meaning behind the words, was impossible.
So the system relied entirely on character matching to route traffic.
Exactly. Disambiguation pages exist because language is inherently ambiguous, and algorithms need human-curated traffic cops to ask the user, which universe did you actually mean to visit?
It is the great equalizer of the digital age.
Right.
But, beyond just the database architecture, there's a beautiful linguistic evolution at play here, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
This single page forces us to witness the tropification of language,
Tropification, I like that.
a phrase that was deadly serious and highly literal in the 18th century, has naturally evolved over hundreds of years into a recognizable, almost comedic trope.
Right. When a modern listener hears the phrase Society of Gentlemen, they do not think of stressed-out lawyers navigating the courts of equity.
No way. They think of men with elaborate mustaches and monocles, sitting in wood-paneled rooms, discovering maps to lost dimensions.
History inevitably becomes myth, and myth eventually becomes pop culture.
That's so true.
The very seriousness of the historical phrase is precisely what makes it such a perfect, slightly ironic title for modern fictional adventurers.
Oh, they're leaning into it.
Yeah, the creators of that Red Panda Adventures episode are intentionally borrowing the historical gravitas of places like Spalding and Exeter to give their fictional pulp world a sense of weight and texture.
They are borrowing the aesthetic of the 18th century without having to deal with the logistical nightmare of riding a horse through the mud to read a book.
Exactly. Best of both worlds.
And the only place you can see that complete, staggering life cycle, from historical reality to professional gatekeeping to modern pop culture aesthetic, laid out in 5 simple bullet points, is on a structural index page, exactly like the one you shared with us.
Yeah, it's all right there.
Which brings me to the metadata of the source itself. The source explicitly notes that this page was last edited on June 30, 2020.
It acts as a frozen snapshot in time, capturing the exact state of our collective categorization up to that specific day.
A living document that was just paused. Which is why this entire exercise, taking what looks like a mundane 5-item list and aggressively dissecting the mechanisms behind it, matters so much to you listening right now.
It really does.
It proves that there is no such thing as just a list. Even the briefest crossroads of information, a simple utilitarian index page designed purely to get you out of there and onto the real article.
Actually contains centuries of human history, class struggle, and the evolution of language.
It reveals the hidden architecture of how we seek and organize knowledge.
From the authors hiding behind a society in Scotland to publish a massive encyclopedia, to the physical book-sharing networks in rural England.
And even down to the very people currently maintaining the back-end architecture of Wikipedia.
It is all driven by the exact same impulse. It is humanity attempting to organize, label, and make sense of the chaotic world around them.
It is the continuous, unbroken thread of human curiosity and our desperate need to categorize the universe.
Well said.
And that leaves me with a lingering thought for you to chew on after this deep dive ends. Think about the nature of a massive digital archive,
Always growing.
always absorbing new culture, new anxieties, and new technologies. If someone types the exact phrase, "Society of Gentlemen," into whatever digital archive exists 300 years from now, in the year 2300,
Oh, wow.
what new, strange, futuristic entity might be added to this exact disambiguation list?
That's a great question.
What modern, cutting-edge group of ours will eventually be reduced to a single, mysterious bullet point, forced to share a linguistic waiting room with the status-obsessed lawyers of the 18th century and a fictional red panda?
It's bound to happen.
You are always walking through that digital crossroads. The next time you stumble on one of those structural signposts pointing in 5 different directions, don't just rush past it to your destination. Take a minute to read all the arrows. You might be surprised at the hidden universes hiding right beneath the surface.